Welcome to the Wanderer's Rest. Tonight, the cherry blossoms are at their peak, and the ancient temple waits beneath their branches. This is the season of fleeting beauty, when petals fall like soft rain and remind us that nothing lasts, and that is precisely what makes it precious. Put down your burdens, find a place beneath the blossoms, and let the gentle falling of petals guide you into deep, peaceful sleep. You are safe here. Let us begin. The path to the temple has never been more beautiful than it is this afternoon. This particular moment in late spring, when the cherry trees have reached their absolute peak. When every branch is so laden with blossoms that the individual flowers merge into clouds of pink, and you walk beneath them feeling as though you're moving through some other realm, some place that exists between the ordinary world and something more ethereal, more sacred, more fleeting. The stone steps beneath your feet have been worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims, their surfaces slightly concave, where countless footsteps have fallen in the same places year after year, decade after decade. And today, these ancient stones are the temple gates rise before you, the massive wooden structure dark with age and weather, its curved tile roof green with moss in places, and the gates frame what lies beyond, like a threshold into another time, another way of being. And passing through them, you feel the city falling away behind you, the noise and rush and concern all becoming distant, becoming irrelevant. Because here, in this space held by ancient trees and older stones, only the present moment exists, only the sight and sound and scent of cherry blossoms at their peak, and the knowledge, gentle but certain, that this peak will not last, that tomorrow or the next day the petals will begin to scatter in earnest, will carpet the ground completely and leave the branches bare. And this knowledge doesn't make the beauty less, but somehow more, makes each blossom precious exactly because it will not. The air itself seems pink, seems to carry the color of the blossoms, and it carries their scent too, a fragrance so delicate it's almost not there, almost imagined, something between honey and fresh rain and green growing things, and you breathe it in deeply, filling your lungs with this perfumed air, and the scent goes deeper than your lungs somehow, seems to reach into your chest and settle there, seems to touch something that needed touching, some place that needed gentleness, needed beauty, needed the reminder that impermanence is not tragedy, but simply the way of things, the pattern that makes beauty possible. Because if the blossoms lasted forever, they would cease to be precious, would become ordinary, would lose the power they have right now, in this moment, to stop you in your tracks and make you forget everything except their soft pink presence and the way the light filters through them, turning the whole world rose gold. A breeze moves through the trees, and it sounds like whispered sutras, like prayers being spoken in a language older than words. And with the breeze comes a sudden cascade of petals, hundreds of them, releasing from their branches and drifting down in slow spirals. And you stand still and let them fall around you, on you, feeling their touch so light against your hair and shoulders and upturned palms. Each petal a small benediction, a small reminder to pay attention, to be here, to receive what is being offered in this exact, unrepeatable instant. The petals continue falling even after the breeze passes, a steady, gentle rain of pink. And you realize you're smiling, not with happiness exactly, but with something deeper, something that includes happiness, but also includes sadness and gratitude and wonder, all mixed together into a feeling that has no name, but that you recognize as being fully, completely, perfectly alive in the presence of something beautiful that will not last, that is beautiful exactly because it will not last. And you walk on through the gates toward the temple proper, toward the ancient tree you came here to sit beneath, toward the hours of watching and breathing and letting go that await you this evening. The path beyond the gates winds through the temple grounds, and every step takes you deeper into the world of blossoms, deeper into this pink filtered light, this soft-edged reality where ordinary concerns seem to dissolve like morning mist under sun. The cherry trees here are old, some of them planted when the temple was founded 300 years ago, and they have grown massive, their trunks thick as temple pillars, their branches spreading so wide they form a continuous canopy overhead, a ceiling of blossoms with the sky barely visible beyond, just hints of deep blue showing through the pink. The stone lanterns that line the path are covered with petals, their tops crowned with pink, their moss-covered surfaces dotted with fallen blooms. And each lantern, as you pass it, seems like a small shrine to impermanence, to the beauty of things that scatter and fall and return to earth. You pause beside one and notice how the petals that fell first, perhaps yesterday or this morning, have already begun to brown slightly at their edges, have already begun their transformation back into soil, into the nourishment that will feed next year's blooms. And this cycle, blossom to petal to earth to blossom, feels less like ending and more like continuation, less like death and more like transformation. And you understand with your body rather than your mind why the old teachers spoke of cherry blossoms when they spoke of the nature of existence, of the way beauty and sorrow are inseparable, of how accepting impermanence is the key to peace. You walk slowly, deliberately, placing each foot with attention, because there is nowhere to rush to, nothing to achieve, except being exactly where you are, exactly as you are. And with each step, more petals drift down, landing in your hair, catching on your sleeves, accumulating on your shoulders like soft pink snow. And you don't brush them away, but let them rest there. Let them make you part of the landscape, part of the falling, part of the gentle descent from branch to earth that is happening everywhere around you in this moment. The path curves, following the natural contour of the land, and around each bend there is more beauty, more variations on the theme of pink and gray and green and gold. More trees in full bloom, creating private spaces beneath their branches. More fallen petals, creating abstract patterns on stone and moss, and the occasional puddle of rainwater left from yesterday's shower. In one such puddle, you see petals floating, and you kneel beside it to look more closely, and the sight stops your breath. The pink petals on the water's dark surface create a reflection of the blossoms above, create a doubling, a mirror, and you cannot tell which is more real, the tree or its reflection, the petals on the branches or the petals on the water. And this confusion feels important, feels like it's teaching you something about the nature of reality, about how what we think is solid and what we think is reflection might be more similar than we imagine, might both be temporary arrangements of light and matter that will scatter and reform and scatter again in an endless dance. You rise and continue walking, and ahead you can see your destination, the ancient tree at the heart of the temple grounds, the grandmother of all these blossoms, the one you came specifically to sit beneath. And seeing it there, massive and laden with pink, standing as it has stood through wars and peace, through countless springs and countless fallings, you feel your pace slow even further, feel yourself wanting to arrive, and also wanting this walking to continue forever. And you understand that this too is part of the teaching, this bittersweet quality of approaching something beautiful, knowing that arrival means the approach is over, that beginning means moving toward ending, and finding joy in it anyway, finding joy because of it, not despite it. The tree is even more magnificent up close than it appeared from the path. Its trunk so thick that 3 people with arms outstretched could not encircle it. Its bark deeply furrowed and darkened with age, and the branches, extending in all directions, create a dome of blossoms overhead, a natural temple within the temple, a sacred canopy that filters the late afternoon light into something soft and rose-tinted and utterly peaceful. At the base of the trunk, on the temple veranda that wraps around this part of the building, a single zabuton cushion has been placed. And seeing it there, you understand that this is a gift, that someone, perhaps the temple groundskeeper, perhaps a monk, has prepared this place for you, has known that someone would come to sit beneath the tree during its peak bloom, has offered this small comfort without needing to know who would receive it. And this anonymous kindness touches you more deeply than any grand gesture could. You approach slowly, removing your sandals before stepping onto the polished wood of the veranda, feeling the smooth surface beneath your socks, still warm from the afternoon sun. and you settle onto the cushion, arranging yourself in a comfortable seated position. Not the formal seiza that would become painful after a while, but a looser, cross-legged seat that you can maintain for hours. And as you settle your weight onto the cushion and feel your spine lengthen and your shoulders drop, you feel something in your chest release. Some tightness you didn't know you were holding. Some preparation for this moment of complete permission to simply be, simply sit, simply watch and breathe and receive what the tree and the afternoon have to offer. The view from here is perfect. You can see the full spread of the tree's canopy above, can see the individual branches laden with blossom clusters, can see the petals that are even now releasing and beginning their slow spiral down to earth. And beyond the tree, you can see other parts of the temple grounds, other cherry trees in various stages of bloom, though none so magnificent as this grandmother. And farther still, you can see the roofs of the city beyond the temple walls. But they seem distant, seem to belong to another world, and your attention naturally returns to the tree, to the falling petals, to the play of light through the pink canopy, creating shifting patterns on the wooden veranda around you. You notice that petals have already accumulated on the veranda surface, scattered in random patterns. And as you watch, another petal lands, and then another, and another, each one falling at its own pace, taking its own path down through the branches, spinning slowly or dropping straight, catching on lower branches briefly before continuing down. And you realize you could watch this forever, could sit here watching petals fall and never tire of it, because each petal's journey is unique. Each falling is its own small event, complete in itself, requiring nothing more than witness, nothing more than attention. And you have attention to give. You have time to offer. And the tree has petals to release, thousands upon thousands of them. And the afternoon has light to give, golden and warm and slanting now as the sun begins its descent. And all of these elements, tree, petals, light, you, are in perfect relationship, perfect balance, each one exactly where it needs to be, doing exactly what it should be doing. Your breathing has slowed without your trying, has synchronized with the falling of the petals, with the gentle movement of branches in the occasional breeze, and you feel your body settling more deeply into the cushion. Feel your mind releasing its grip on plans and memories and concerns. Feel yourself becoming more present, more here, more available to this moment and whatever it wants to reveal. And the tree continues its quiet work of blooming and releasing, blooming and releasing. And you continue your quiet work of watching and breathing, watching and breathing. And time begins to behave strangely, begins to feel both very slow and somehow non-existent. And you understand that this is what people mean when they speak of being in the moment. This dissolution of past and future into an eternal present where nothing needs to happen except what is already happening, where nothing needs to be different than it already is. The falling petals become your teachers, and they teach without words, without effort, simply by being exactly what they are. Blossoms that have completed their time on the branch and are now making the journey to earth, surrendering to gravity, to the pull of what comes next. And in their falling, there is no resistance, no hesitation, only a pure acceptance of the change that is occurring. A grace that comes from not fighting what cannot be fought, not clinging to what cannot be held. You watch one petal in particular as it releases from a high branch. Watch its spiral descent through the air, the way it catches light and spins and pauses on a breath of wind and continues down. And following its path with your eyes becomes a meditation, becomes a practice of presence. And when it finally lands on the veranda surface a few feet from you, settling onto the wood with a touch so light it makes no sound, you feel you've witnessed something important, something sacred, though you could not say exactly what. Another petal falls, and another, and another, and you stop trying to follow individual ones, and instead let your vision soften. Let your awareness expand to take in the whole space of falling. And what you see then is like pink snow, like a gentle rain that never becomes heavy. Just this constant soft descent of blossom after blossom. And the sound of it, when you tune your hearing to that frequency, is like the softest percussion imaginable. Petals landing on wood and stone and earth and other petals, creating a rhythm that is barely audible but definitely present. A whispered music, a lullaby played on instruments of silk and air. Some petals land on you, and you feel each one's arrival. One on your shoulder, one on your knee, one in your hair, one on the back of your hand. And each touch is so light it barely registers as touch. More like a breath, more like a thought. And you don't brush them away, but let them accumulate. Let them make you part of the falling. And after a while, you have so many petals resting on you that you must be more pink than gray, must look like you're being slowly covered by the tree's offering, buried in beauty, claimed by blossoms. And this covering feels less like being hidden and more like being blessed. Each petal a small prayer, a small gift, a small reminder that you are here, alive, present at this unrepeatable moment. The light is changing as the afternoon stretches toward evening, becoming more golden, more slanted, and the quality of the pink changes with it, becomes warmer, richer, and the shadows cast by the tree trunk and branches become longer, deeper, creating a pattern of light and dark on the veranda that shifts slowly. So slowly you can't see it moving, but can notice after some minutes that it has moved. That the patch of sunlight that was touching your ankle is now a hand's width farther away. That the shadow that was beside you has crept closer. And this slow movement of light and shadow is another form of falling, another manifestation of impermanence, another teacher showing you that everything is always changing, always in motion, even when it looks still, even when it feels eternal. You notice that your thinking has become very quiet, that thoughts arise less frequently, and when they do, they're simple, immediate, petal, light, beautiful. Yes. More labels than narratives, more observations than judgments. And between these thoughts, there is just silence, just presence, just the direct experience of sitting beneath a tree as petals fall and light shifts and the world turns slowly toward evening. And this simplicity feels like returning to something you'd forgotten, some way of being you knew when you were very young, before language became so complex, before thinking became so constant, when you could sit and watch and be, and that was enough. That was everything. And now, beneath the ancient tree, you have returned to that place, that state, and it feels like coming home. The sound, when it comes, seems to emerge from the mountain itself, from the stone and earth beneath the temple, from the deep places where sound is born. And it rolls through the grounds in waves, the bronze voice of the temple bell marking the hour of sunset. And the note is so low and so rich that you feel it in your chest and belly as much as you hear it with your ears. Feel it vibrate in your bones, in the wooden veranda beneath you, in the ancient tree trunk. And the vibration travels up through the branches, and something extraordinary happens. The sound shakes loose a cascade of petals, hundreds or perhaps thousands of them releasing all at once. And for a few seconds, the air is so full of falling pink that you cannot see the sky beyond, cannot see anything except this storm of blossoms, this sudden, abundant letting go. The bell continues its long, resonant tone, fading slowly. And as it fades, the cascade of petals becomes a shower, becomes a steady fall again, and you sit in wonder at what you've witnessed. This demonstration of how sound can move through matter, how vibration can cause release, how something invisible, like a bell's note, can have visible effects, can shake blossoms loose, can create beauty through its passage. And you think about the temple monks who ring this bell every evening, have rung it every evening for centuries, and how they must know this effect, must have witnessed countless times this shaking loose of petals. And yet they ring the bell anyway, or perhaps ring it specifically for this reason, because causing blossoms to fall is also a kind of teaching, a kind of service, a way of demonstrating impermanence with beauty rather than words. The petals that fell with the bell are still settling, still drifting down through the still air, and many of them land on you, on your head and shoulders, several on your upturned palms, which you hadn't realized you'd extended, opened to receive what was falling. And looking at the petals in your palms, you see them with new eyes. See how delicate they are, how perfectly formed. how each one is complete in itself, a whole world of pink and white, and the subtlest gradations between, with veins so fine they're barely visible, running from the base to the rounded edges, and a fragrance that up close is more present, more real, still subtle, but definitely there, definitely sweet, definitely carrying some essence that cannot be named but only experienced, only breathed in and allowed to work whatever magic it works on the human heart. You close your hands gently around the petals, not crushing them, but holding them lightly, and you bring them close to your face and breathe in their scent more deeply. And with that breath, you feel a wave of emotion rise in you. Not sadness exactly, and not joy exactly, but something that contains both, something bittersweet and full. And you realize your eyes are wet, that tears have come without your noticing, and these tears feel clean, feel right, feel like they're washing away something that needed washing away. And you let them come. Let them fall just as the petals fall, just as everything falls eventually. And in this letting fall, this surrender to what is, you feel more spacious, more open, more able to hold both the beauty and the sorrow, the blooming and the scattering, the arrival and the departure, that are always happening simultaneously in every moment of every life. The bell's tone has faded completely now, has returned to the silence from which it emerged, but its effect continues in the petals still settling, in the ones resting in your palms, in the vibration still resonating in your chest, in the tears on your cheeks drying in the warm evening air. And you sit very still, holding everything lightly, holding nothing tightly, just being present in this moment that is already becoming the next moment, already transforming, already falling toward whatever comes next, and being okay with that, being more than okay, being grateful for it, grateful for the falling, grateful for the impermanence that makes this beauty possible, that makes this moment precious, that makes this life, however brief, however fleeting, worth living, worth witnessing, worth receiving with open hands and open heart. From somewhere within the temple, a young monk appears, moving so quietly you don't notice him until he's quite near. And he carries a small tray holding a tea bowl, a small ceramic pot, and nothing else. And he bows to you without speaking, and places the tray on the veranda within your reach, and bows again, and withdraws. The whole interaction happening in such silence that it feels less like an event and more like a gentle dream, like something that perhaps was always going to happen, was written into the evening from the beginning. And you bow to his departing form, though he's already gone, already disappeared back into the temple's shadowed interior, and you turn your attention to the tea. The bowl is simple, rough clay the color of earth, with a green-gray glaze that pools thicker in some areas than others. And when you lift it, using both hands, showing respect to the vessel and what it contains, you feel its weight, substantial but not heavy, and its warmth, the tea inside still quite hot. And looking into the bowl, you see the pale green of what must be sencha, or perhaps kukicha, and floating on the tea's surface are several cherry blossom petals. Whether placed there intentionally by the monk or fallen from the tree just now, you cannot say. And it doesn't matter, because the effect is perfect, is exactly right. These pink petals on the green tea creating a small floating garden, a miniature landscape of color and form. You bring the bowl to your face and breathe in the steam, and the scent that rises is complex. The vegetal earthiness of the tea, the floral sweetness of the petals, and something else, some combination of the two that is more than their sum. Some third scent that emerges from their meeting, and breathing this in, you feel it opening something in your sinuses, in your throat, in your lungs. Feel it reaching deep inside and touching places that needed touching. And when you sip, tilting the bowl carefully so that petals and liquid both meet your lips, the taste is subtle and layered, bitter and sweet together. The tea's slight astringency balanced by the petal's delicate sweetness. And the temperature is perfect, hot enough to feel its heat all the way down your throat, but not so hot that it burns, just hot enough to spread warmth through your center, to make you aware of your body's interior, of the hollow spaces where heat can accumulate and radiate outward. You drink slowly, taking small sips with long pauses between, and with each sip, one or two petals stick to your lips, and you have to gently blow them back into the bowl. And this becomes part of the ceremony, part of the meditation. Sip, taste, feel warmth, blow petals, watch them float, bring bowl to lips again, repeat. And the repetition is soothing, is grounding, is another way of being present without having to think, without having to do anything except what comes next in the natural sequence of drinking tea beneath a blossoming tree as the sun sets and the light turns golden and the world becomes very quiet, very soft, very much like a dream you're having while still awake. When the tea is finished, you set the bowl down gently on the tray, and the petals that were floating are now settled at the bottom, dark pink against the bowl's pale interior. And you look at them for a long moment, these blossoms that fell from the tree and landed in tea and were drunk and are now resting, their journey complete for now, though not finished forever, because eventually someone will rinse the bowl and the petals will return to water and then to earth and then to the tree's roots and then, in some future spring, to blossoms again. The cycle continuing, always continuing. Nothing ever truly lost, only transformed, only changing form, only moving through the great wheel of becoming and unbecoming that everything moves through, always, without exception, without end. sun is touching the horizon now, invisible behind the temple buildings, but its last light reaching up into the sky and turning the scattered clouds pink and gold. And the light that filters through the cherry blossoms becomes something magical, something you've never quite seen before, or have seen, but never with this particular quality, this particular richness, as though the light itself has become thick, viscous, golden honey pouring through pink silk, and every petal that still clings to the branches glows from within, becomes translucent, becomes a small lamp, and the ones falling through this light trail gold behind them, catch fire with sunset, become small orange-pink flames descending through the darkening air. You find yourself holding your breath without meaning to, not wanting to disturb this moment, this convergence of perfect light and perfect bloom, knowing that it will last perhaps 5 minutes, perhaps 10, and then the sun will sink below the horizon, and this particular quality of light will be gone, will not return until tomorrow's sunset, and by then the tree will have released another day's worth of blossoms, will be that much closer to bare branches. And this exact configuration of light and petal will never occur again. Not in your lifetime, not in anyone's lifetime, not ever. Because the conditions that create any moment are so specific, so dependent on countless variables, that each moment is absolutely unique, absolutely unrepeatable. And this one is particularly beautiful, particularly worth witnessing, particularly worth offering your complete attention. The light continues its slow change, the gold becoming deeper, richer, and then beginning to fade, to thin, to be overtaken by the blue of twilight that is rising from the east, from behind you. And you can feel the change not just in what you see, but in what you feel on your skin, the air temperature dropping slightly as the sun's warmth withdraws, and you pull your robes a bit closer around you, not cold, but aware of the cooling, aware that day is ending and night is beginning, and you are here, present at the hinge between them, at this threshold moment that is neither full day nor full night, but something in between, something liminal, something that belongs completely to neither state, but is its own thing, precious in its brevity, in its in-betweenness. The last direct light fades from the upper branches of the cherry tree, the glow diminishing petal by petal from top to bottom, and then it's gone completely. And the tree is lit now only by the ambient light of the blue twilight, and the pink of the blossoms becomes softer, more muted, more subtle, but no less beautiful, just different, just changed, just transformed from day beauty to evening beauty. And still the petals fall. Still they descend in their slow spirals and gentle paths, and you realize they will fall all night, that the tree does not stop releasing just because humans stop watching, that the work of blossoming and scattering continues in darkness as in light, continues whether witnessed or not, continues simply because that is what cherry trees do in spring, what they have always done, what they will always do for as long as there are springs and cherry trees. And this continuance beyond human observation feels important, feels like it's teaching you something about how the world's beauty is not dependent on your witness, exists for its own sake, is complete in itself. And yet, how grateful you are to be here, to see it, to receive it, to allow it to work its gentle magic on your heart. The temple grounds are very quiet now, the day visitors long gone, the monks perhaps at evening meal or meditation, and you are alone with the tree and the falling petals and the gathering dark. And this solitude feels full rather than empty, feels like a gift rather than an absence, and you settle more deeply into your cushion, into your body, into this moment, preparing to stay here a while longer, preparing to watch the night come completely, preparing to sleep, eventually, under this ancient witness, covered in its petals, held by its presence. The darkness has deepened now to almost full night, though a few stars are visible through the branches overhead, and they provide enough light, along with the temple's distant lanterns, that you can still see the petals falling, can still track their descent through the dark air, pale pink against deep blue-black. And they continue to land on you, have been landing on you for hours now, and you are covered with them, your shoulders and lap, and the ground around you thick with fallen blossoms. And rather than brushing them away, you have let them accumulate, have let them bury you, slowly, gently, in beauty, in this soft pink evidence of impermanence. And lying back now against the pile of petals that has gathered behind you, letting your head rest on this most unusual pillow, you look up through the branches at the stars and feel completely held, completely safe, completely at peace. The petals beneath you are soft and slightly cool, and they release their scent more strongly when compressed. And so, lying on them creates a cloud of fragrance around you, surrounds you with sweetness. And this scent, combined with the softness and the gentle continuous falling of more petals from above, creates a sensation of being inside something, being embraced by something larger than yourself. And that something is the tree, is the night, is the spring itself, is nature in its perfect operation, asking nothing from you except that you rest, that you receive, that you allow yourself to be part of the cycle, part of the blooming and falling, part of the great letting go. Your breathing has become so slow, so deep, that you are barely aware of it anymore. Just this gentle rise and fall, this exchange of air, and with each exhalation, you feel yourself releasing more, letting go more. And what you're releasing is not clear. Maybe tension, maybe control, maybe the illusion that you are separate from all this, from the tree and the petals and the night. And what you're gaining is not clear either. Maybe peace, maybe understanding, maybe just this moment of complete presence, of being so fully here that there is no separation between you and what you're experiencing. No gap between subject and object, just one thing. One unified field of cherry blossoms and starlight and breathing and being. The falling continues, will continue all night, and you may sleep, or you may remain in this state that is like sleep, but more aware, more present. And it doesn't matter which, because both are forms of rest. Both are ways of surrendering to what is, to what the night offers, to what the tree teaches, and the teaching is always the same teaching, always about impermanence, about letting go, about finding beauty not despite the fact that everything ends, but because everything ends, because the falling makes the blooming precious, because the scattering makes the gathering sacred, because knowing that nothing lasts makes every moment infinitely valuable. And so you lie beneath the ancient tree, covered in its petals, breathing in their sweetness, feeling their soft touch continuing to land on your face and hands. And you are more peaceful than you have been in longer than you can remember, more at rest than you knew was possible. And the tree stands over you like a guardian, like a witness, like a teacher whose lesson is taught not through words, but through this simple, generous scattering of beauty, this offering of itself, petal by petal, moment by moment. And you receive it, gratefully, completely. And somewhere in that receiving, in that gratitude, in that complete acceptance of beauty and impermanence together, you slip across the threshold into sleep, into dreams that are pink-tinged and sweet-scented, into rest as deep as roots, as complete as falling, as peaceful as the space between petals, as eternal as the cycle that brings spring after spring after spring, cherry blossoms blooming and falling, blooming and falling, forever and forever and forever. And you are part of it, have always been part of it, will always be part of it. And knowing this, resting in this, you sleep, the sleep of petals returning to earth, the sleep of beauty surrendering to time, the sleep of one who has witnessed the sacred and been changed by it, been softened, been opened, been returned to the simple truth that this life, however brief, is beautiful, is precious, is worth every moment of attention you can give it. And the tree agrees, and the petals agree, and the stars agree, and the night holds you gently, and you sleep.